Skeleton Pilgrim, and I'll get you another.
That chase scene was not a camera trick. That was a real bear on set, and it nearly took out one of the crew, but the cameras kept rolling. And that's just one of 10 weird facts that will completely change how you see the film Jeremiah Johnson. Most Westerners gave you gunfights and chaos, but Jeremiah Johnson gave you silence, a man walking away from everything, and somehow that said more than words ever could. If that film meant something to you, what you're about to discover will make it mean even more, because what happened behind those snow-covered Utah mountains during filming nearly broke everyone involved. So if you ever watched Jeremiah ride into those mountains and quietly thought about doing the same, welcome to the family. But before we ride, like the video and subscribe. Remember to also share this with someone who still watches Westerns like it's 1972 and the NFL is still free on TV. Before the cameras rolled, even before anyone set foot in those mountains, someone had to find them first. That job fell to one man, Ted Hayworth, the art director behind films like Marty and Pepe. What looked like a straightforward task turned into something else entirely. Hayworth scouted over 26,000 miles of rugged Utah terrain. 26,000 miles is enough to circle the entire Earth, and you'd still have miles left over to drive from New York to Miami. Add that to the fact that he had to cover all that with a paper map only. That shows you the kind of commitment that everyone involved in making this film had. No one asked Hayworth to go to such extra lengths. The studio just wanted locations, yet he gave them a world, literally. His search eventually led to about 100 suitable sites across Utah, but there is something unique that Hayworth's decision to scout so many sites did. Every time the landscape shifts in the film, you're not looking at the same mountain dressed differently. It's a different place entirely. That's the sole reason why the wilderness feels endless. Hayworth built geography big and worthy enough for Jeremiah to get lost in. But despite Hayworth's efforts, Warner Bros. Had other plans that almost ruined the whole thing. That's coming up, so stick around, because when it does, it'll make you appreciate this film even more. Hayworth found the world, but wait until you hear what the world's weather did to the crew. 99% of films have a safety net. A bad take, roll again. Wrong angle, reset and reshoot. But not Jeremiah Johnson. In scenes requiring fresh snow, you simply could not have the actor's tracks in the shot. Pollock later explained everything. You could take a snowmobile, move the actor into a thicket by some back way, and call him out on a two-way radio. That was the system. No second chances. Such a situation that gives the crew no room for error only adds to the pressure. A single wrong step in the wrong place, and you're done. You had to wait for hours or even days for nature to reset. To add insult to injury, heavy snows meant horses couldn't move through the drifts. So the crew laid 1,000 yards of chain-link fence across the snow. They then covered it with white material so the horses wouldn't sink. All these because the shot had to work. That's more than filmmaking. That is elite problem-solving at altitude with frozen fingers and no margin for error. And it shows during one of the film's quietest scenes where Jeremiah crosses a snowy meadow after cremating his family. The weather turned without warning, and the temperature dropped nearly 20 degrees in minutes. Pollock hesitated, but Redford was already in position and ready to go. That shot made the final cut, and viewers still comment on how raw it feels. They don't realize they're watching a man walk through a real blizzard, and he knew it might be the only chance they had. These conditions forced everyone to be completely present. No lazy takes, no phoning it in. You had one shot to get it right. The snow might have been unforgiving, but what came after the shoot every single day was worse. When Pollock's crew pushed 10,000 feet above sea level into the Wasatch Range in January 1971, they looked more like survivalists than filmmakers. No dressing rooms, no wardrobe trailers. For much of the shoot, there wasn't even a bathroom. Some days, the nearest vehicle was 12 miles away. If someone got hurt, it was a 2-hour carry just to reach help. So, the next time you complain about a bad commute, remember this crew. Summer was equally unforgiving. Temperatures would drop below freezing point at night. It was so bad that they crawled into tents and woke up to frost on their sleeping bags. No mercy in either direction. The days burned and the nights froze. And somewhere in between, they were supposed to find the energy to make a great film. It was so intense that Redford called it the most physically demanding shoot of his entire life. Not because of anything dramatic, because every single day was just survival. Everyone on that mountain suffered, but one man took that suffering home with him, literally. Most directors fight for their vision with words. Sidney Pollack fought with his mortgage. And he wasn't going in blind. He had Frank Capra's story as a warning. In 1946, Capra co-financed It's a Wonderful Life through his own independent company, Liberty Films. The film cost $3.7 million. It returned $3.3 million. Liberty could not absorb the loss. Paramount eventually bought them out, and Capra never ran his own company again. A man who built his entire career on believing in a story undone by one film. Pollack knew that story, and he signed the mortgage papers anyway. When unexpected weather threatened production and the budget began to spiral, Warner Brothers made their position clear. If production went a penny over budget, the shortfall would come directly out of Redford's pocket. A lien would be placed on Pollack's own production company as collateral. He ended up mortgaging his own home to keep filming. Both men had skin in the game, the kind that keeps you up at night. That decision only reveals to us what kind of director Pollack really was. Most studio directors protect themselves. They take the money, follow the rules, and deliver the film the studio asked for. Yet Pollack did the complete opposite. He looked at the mountain, looked at his budget, and looked at his house. Against all odds, he chose the mountain. And that's not a career move, it's a belief system. He was later quoted saying, "In the end, it was the greatest way to learn production because I was playing with my own money." That is outright terrifying, but Pollack saw it as an opportunity to learn. The gamble paid off in a way that nobody predicted. The film earned $44.7 million against a budget of $3.1 million. That made it the fifth highest grossing film of 1972. But that's not really the point. The point is that Pollack didn't know it would pay off. He just believed it should and took his chances. That gamble paid off, but Pollack and Redford had another war coming. After advancing Redford $200,000 to secure him for the lead role, Warner Brothers panicked over costs. Their solution? Shoot the entire film on a backlot in Los Angeles. Painted backdrops, fake snow, bring the whole landscape to the City of Angels. That decision did not sit well with Redford. He threatened to become conveniently ill if the studio pushed the backlot idea on him. He went as far as guaranteeing that he and Pollack would personally cover any budget overruns themselves. But there was something that no one else knew apart from Redford. Despite committing to covering the overruns, he was already broke. He had already spent the advance payment and was bargaining from an empty wallet. The studio finally agreed when Pollack guaranteed that Utah could be done at the same cost as the backlot. But Warner Bros. Was not finished, and their second complaint was even harder to argue with. The entire script of the almost 2-hour film was just short of 4,000 words. This film had fewer words than most people send in emails in a week. And nobody hated that more than Warner Bros. They demanded voiceovers, reshoots, and anything else to fill the quiet. Redford's response was simple: add narration and my name comes off the project. The studio knew if Redford walked, Pollack would follow suit. So they caved. Again. Every big Western before this one told you what to feel, through music, through dialogue, through a hero who explained himself at every turn. Jeremiah Johnson trusted you to figure it out on your own, and 50 years later, it's that silence you still remember most. Now, imagine Redford didn't stand his ground and let the studio have its way. Do you think the film would still be as big? Drop your thoughts below and remember to subscribe to the channel if you have yet to do so. Redford stared down Warner Brothers and didn't flinch. But did he have the courage to stare down this next thing? You remember the scene when Bear Claw Chris Lapp looks Jeremiah dead in the eye and asks, "Are you sure you can skin Grizz?" Then comes that loud, sarcastic, almost evil laugh that echoes throughout the landscape. If you were paying attention, that laugh was Bear's way of saying, "Son, you are about to find out exactly what you asked for." Then he disappears. Then he comes crashing back through his own cabin door with a full-grown grizzly bear right behind him. dives out the back window, and hollers from outside, "Skin that one, Pilgrim, and I'll get you another." Now, that bear you saw was a real trained grizzly named Teddy, and still a grizzly, which means predictable right until the moment he wasn't. During the third take, he didn't stop his charge. He hit the stunt coordinator full force, drove him to the ground, and pinned him under one massive paw. For 5 seconds, nobody on set moved. The trainer called Teddy off. The coordinator stood up with bruises and a what-if story that he could tell for the rest of his life. Production nearly shut down that afternoon. Insurance wanted Teddy gone immediately, but Pollock argued that you can't manufacture the kind of fear a real grizzly puts in a man's eyes. And he was right. When Teddy charges in that scene as Redford stands by the cabin's door, the fear in his eyes is not performance. It's the reaction of a man about to be holed up in a small wooden cabin with a grizzly bear who just proved he doesn't always follow the script. And that's the thing about real danger on a film set. The camera didn't just capture what Redford did, it also captured what he felt. You simply can't fake the second one. The fear in that cabin was real. So was everything the man on the other side of it brought to the set. Will Geers played Bear Claw in the movie. In the 1950s, he was blacklisted by Hollywood after refusing to name persons who had joined the Communist Party in the USA. So he did what any reasonable man would do when his career nosedives. He walked away. He sold his Santa Monica property and bought a parcel of land in Topanga Canyon in California. He then spent the next decade growing vegetables and running a small nursery. So whatever you saw him teaching Jeremiah about living off the land was memory kicking in. By the time he arrived on set in 1971, he showed up like a man with something to prove. Not to the studio or to the camera, but to himself. All those trapping techniques and survival instincts were real. Pollock let the camera roll. The interaction between him and Redford is not two actors running lines, it's a man who actually knows, teaching a man who wants to learn. Take the hot coal bed scene. He buries burning coals under dirt and tells Jeremiah to sleep on top for warmth. Simple enough. Except Jeremiah doesn't put enough dirt down, and his blankets catch fire in the middle of the night. Bearclaw looks up right from his own warm bed and delivers the line, "Didn't put enough dirt down. Saw it right off." Now, ask yourself, where does a man learn something like that? Because it's definitely not from a script. That wasn't Geer performing Bearclaw, it was Bearclaw performing Geer. And when filming wrapped and the crew packed up and headed back to civilization, Geer stayed for 3 extra days. Camping, hunting, and living the way Bearclaw would have, because for him, the mountains weren't a set. They were the closest thing he had had to home for more than a decade. Hollywood took his career, but the wilderness gave it back. Geer stayed because the role fit perfectly. Number 3 is about the men who didn't fit at all. Before we get to the man who made this film what it is, let's talk about the men who almost ruined it. Jeremiah Johnson's role was originally intended for Lee Marvin and then Clint Eastwood. The man to direct the film was Sam Peckinpah. Peckinpah was the man credited for turning The Wild Bunch into a blood-soaked masterpiece. But as fate would have it, none of that ever happened. Peckinpah and Eastwood clashed, with Eastwood openly criticizing Peckinpah's portrayal of violence in westerns. Peckinpah eventually left the project to work on Straw Dogs, and Eastwood left for Dirty Harry, which sounded a lot less dangerous, and he walked away too. The irony? That creative disagreements led to the birth of 2 classics. You just can't manufacture something like that. Then Warner Brothers contacted Redford. When Redford learned that the project still lacked a director, he talked Sidney Pollock into taking the helm. The two had been looking for another film to work on since This Property is Condemned back in 1966. Pollock just asked Redford one question. "You ever want to disappear into a character nobody will recognize?" Redford didn't hesitate. Looking at this, it's obvious that casting Redford had a counterintuitive quality. Marvin would have been terrifying, and Eastwood would have been dangerous. Eastwood even admitted that the character was too internal and quiet. But the film needed a man willing to be humbled by the mountain, someone willing to go quiet and disappear. The quality Eastwood rejected is precisely what made Jeremiah Johnson the film you never forgot. It's the sole reason you never get tired of rewatching it. Redford was the right man for the role. Now, get ready to discover exactly what that cost him. Redford did most of his own stunts throughout the entire production. But that's not even the strange part. He went as far as paying the stunt guild out of his own pocket so that no stuntman would lose work because of his decision. And he knew exactly what that decision would cost. 3 decades before this film began shooting, Hollywood had already written that lesson in blood. During the cavalry charge scene of They Died with Their Boots On in 1941, a stuntman named Bill Meade was riding alongside Errol Flynn when his horse tripped. As he was going down, Meade had the presence of mind to throw his sword forward to clear his path, but the hilt caught on the ground and he fell on it. He was one of 3 men killed during that single scene. 3 men gone, 1 scene, 1 film. Most stars shy away from stunts in fear of sustaining injuries or even dying in the course. Redford avoided the stunt double to protect the performance. That's a guy who understood exactly what the role demanded, and he was willing to pay for it in every sense of the word. That deer dragging through the woods, Redford. Standing waist deep in a freezing river pulling a trap, all Redford. Every physical moment you see on screen carries real weight, and that's because the one carrying it was fully there. Redford suffered in executing this role, but the real man it was based on made all of that look easy. The character Redford played was borrowed from a real man. His real name was John Garrison Johnston, and the script borrowed everything about him except the parts that would have made the film impossible to watch. The real Johnson had earned the nickname that should tell you a lot about him, John Liver-Eating Johnson. He allegedly killed and scalped more than 300 Crow warriors and devoured their livers to avenge the murder of his wife. He had returned from a trapping season only to find his wife reduced to bones. His wife was the daughter of a prominent Flathead sub-chief. You see the parallel with the love life of the film's Jeremiah? Among her bones were a smaller set. Those belonged to an unborn child. What followed was pure horror. Johnson spent the next 25 years hunting the Crow, but it's what he did after capturing them that sends shivers down your spine. He cut out their livers and ate them. Johnson is claimed to have killed anywhere between 300 and 1,300 Crow men. The Crow sent 20 of their best warriors to stop them. Not one of them returned, and their bodies were never found. Now, Pollock understood something that most people miss. He didn't soften Johnson's story because he was squeamish. He did so because the truth was so extreme it would have broken the film's emotional logic entirely. A protagonist who hunts 300 men and eats their organs can't also be the quiet soul the audience needed to follow for 2 hours. Pollock made a choice. He chose to give the audience a myth they could sit with rather than a reality they couldn't stomach. And for once, Warner Brothers seemed to be on the same page with the director. They were clear that the plot had to be watered down significantly from the real story. They must not have wanted Redford chowing down on human liver on screen. So yeah, smart call. Some truths are better left in the mountains. Most films are forgotten before the credits finish rolling, but Jeremiah Johnson is still being discovered half a century later. That's what happens when the people making a film believe in it more than the studio does. Which fact surprised you the most? Let us know, and remember to hit like and subscribe for more content just like this.